Here's an underrated aspect, which I think is part of Zebec but is rarely often talked about, and that is Zebec's focus on payrolls. And more specifically, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and also even though the idea of maybe 10 cents is arguably still in my mind, I do want to talk about a recent post when it comes to Zebec. And it's actually regarding Simon, which is the COO of Zebec. And he said that the 500 plus billion-dollar opportunity in payroll, and he was talking about that basically, and why the system hasn't changed in over 75 years. Why do I think Zebec could revolutionize this? It's because if we take a look at payrolls, traditionally speaking, it takes time. Like, for instance, when I was working back in college, I was getting, paid every 2 weeks. So then, it takes time. However, we take a look at, for instance, instant payrolls, which Zebec is focused on. I may no longer need to wait 2 weeks. It could hypothetically, again, be instant, arguably. And some people may be thinking, okay, it's worked for over 75 plus years. It's worked for a very long time. Why even bother about this? It's because, again, much like the CEO Simon, he was saying how it was over 500 plus $billion. Again, arguably in terms of opportunity and payroll. So it's not such a bad thing to be focused on. And having that option of instant payrolls, I don't think is necessarily such a bad thing. It's like, for instance, projects that are focused on decentralizing data storage. Does data storage really need decentralization, arguably, even though centralized data storage has worked so well for such a long time? Arguably, I don't think it's necessarily going to see mass adoption in the next couple of years, but at least having that option, I think, is pretty interesting, and I think it's a good thing. So I think it's the same thing when it comes to payrolls. It doesn't necessarily mean that every enterprise out there has to adopt instant payrolls, but I think just having the option, I think, is a pretty cool and interesting thing, and I don't mind that when it comes to Zebec. Even though I don't think this is going to see mass adoption in the next 6 months or so, I still think it's very interesting nonetheless, because we've seen time and time again that people within this space, they usually care about the narrative, they care about the story, and they care about how revolutionary something could be. So I don't think this is that bad, even though the adoption, arguably, I don't think is the best. I think it's good in terms of the narrative. And some people may be thinking, oh, people only care about adoption. I disagree with that, because we see many NFT projects out there, many blockchain gaming projects, many metaverse projects. They say they're going to do this or do that. They never launch anything. And then still, we see their native token arguably do very well. And many of them are still pretty massive right now, even despite not really doing much. And I think a major reason why is because people, again, usually care about the story. They usually care about the narrative as opposed to what something already is. If people only cared about the adoption and what something already is, I think many AI projects out there, many blockchain gaming projects out there wouldn't really be that massive right now. So I think this is pretty good in terms of setting the narrative and the tune when it comes to Zebec. And not to mention, Zebec is focused on AI-based PayFi. So overall, when I take a look at the whole package when it comes to Zebec, I don't think it's a bad project to me. And keep in mind, 10 cents is around an 18x away from right now. It doesn't seem that far away to me. And the market cap it would have at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around $9 billion, which also doesn't seem that ridiculous to me, considering how something like XRP right now has a market cap that is well beyond $100 billion, and arguably we're not even in a fully fledged type of altcoin season, let alone something like Dogecoin reaching over $80 billion in market cap back in 2021 years ago. It doesn't seem too ridiculous to me, but even if, let's say, ZBCN went to the price of 5 cents, around 9x from here, I still will not complain about that, arguably considering how much ZBCN has done historically speaking. When I was first talking about ZBCN, it wasn't doing that good. So considering what it's already done, and then maybe arguably, let's say, a 19x on top of what it already did, and also maybe even at the price of 10 cents, arguably around an 18x, doesn't seem that bad to me, considering if something like XRP, I don't think in the next 6 to 10 months, arguably it could do around an 18x from here. This is just my perspective. The market cap's already too massive. Don't get me wrong, I'm bullish on XRP, but there seems to be that it could very well have a limit for this cycle. I'm not saying 10, 15, 20 years later, but for me, during this cycle, I don't think that it could arguably do that. Not to mention, as ZBCN for me, I would want to allocate more towards that as opposed to XRP and XLM right now, even though I'm still bullish on both, because Zebec is basically a miniature version of that, but then it has an aspect of Solana, which is a very good layer 1 blockchain, and also Circle, which is the creator of USDC, the stablecoin, is one of the backers of the project, and also Solana Ventures is also yet another backer when it comes to Zebec. Circle also allegedly holds a significant amount of ZBCN, which I find very impressive. Circle is publicly listed, so that's amazing. So for me, why would I allocate more towards XRP and XLM right now if there's basically a version like that, which arguably I think Zebec is, with a way lower market cap, again, with an aspect of Solana, and having one of its significant holders being Circle, the creator of USDC, the stablecoin? For me, that would be a good enough explanation in my perspective. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, by the way. All I'm doing right now is staying patient because I understand that that is the only thing that is within my control. Because I am not a day trader, I don't use leverage, I don't swing trade, so I'm not going to try to focus on the exact moment in time for me to enter. For me, instead, what I'm doing is literally preparing for a moment in time ZBCN has that next leg up. I did that before, and I'm still going to do that right now. I'm not going to stop my strategy because I do not know the future, so I'm going to stay patient. However, at least we can take a look back in history and I think take a look at a hypothetical scenario. Like for instance, usually altcoins as a worst case scenario, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. And the last Bitcoin halving event happened in April of last year. 18 months on top of that would mean around October this year. So with that in mind, even if let's say that October date doesn't come true, let's say it comes arguably in December or Q1 of next year, if it ever does, it doesn't seem like that much time to me considering how long I've been in this space already, and considering how long I've been waiting. If I have to wait another 6, 7 months, whatever, it is what it is. I'm just going to stay patient and just continue dollar cost averaging, holding and just waiting because that is the only thing that is within my control. But in the meantime, I do like Zebec's focused on payrolls, and I think the COO, again, Simon, I think that arguably is the right person when it comes to being part of the Zebec team, because I like the vision that he has when it comes to payrolls and the mindset that he has on top of that, and saying that, you know what, payrolls has worked for a very long time, but instant payrolls through Zebec, why not? Why not have other options? I like that mentality. I like the mentality where people kind of think outside of the box, and I do like that when it comes to Zebec. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.